What's happening, everybody? This is Jason Gaddy, and as many of you all know, I follow a lot of Rich Piana stuff, and one of the things he talks about is glycogen replenishment. And you don't know if any of you are like me, but you hear something and you don't exactly understand it, but in the sake of not looking ignorant, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, whatever. So I decided to look it up, and I found this page. This guy wrote, Dr. Gregory Tardy, PhD, talking about glycogen replenishment, and it was kind of interesting. And so I thought I'd just kind of go through it real quick and try to explain why it's important to replace glycogen. And I was looking this up, because trying to lose body fat, I was wondering how important it was to replace glycogen if you're trying to cut carbs and whatnot. So this article I found, and I found it to be pretty interesting. And so I'm always on the search for information, so I thought I'd share this with you. So throughout the centuries, dietary intake has been a source of concern to athletes in search of an ergogenic edge over opponents. It wasn't until 1866 that it was demonstrated that there was insignificant, if any, use of protein as a fuel during exercise. Since that time, innumerable studies have refuted the notion that high protein intake will enhance an athletic performance. Since the conclusion of the Krauss-Weber test in 1950, there has been ever-increasing awareness and concern for cardiopulmonary fitness and health in Americans. Endurance type of activities such as Nordic skiing, cycling, running, basically cardio, swimming, blah, 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 blah. More intense attention has been devoted to dietary manipulation, which may provide an ergogenic effect, thus prolonging time to exhaustion or delaying the onset of blood lactate accumulation, OBLA, and in an attempt to complete a higher intensity longer. So trying to be able to work out longer is what they're saying there. So the classic study by Christensen and Hansen in 1939, and see, just going back through this study, this guy's got all this information from years and years and years ago. And it's like all this stuff coming out now about, switching over to carbs and less protein. It's like it's some kind of mystical, magical something that we just came up with. And the first, like 1950s and, 1866. So none of this stuff is new, but it's like it's being refound again. So anyway, the classic study by Christensen and Hansen in 1939 establishes the effect of a high carbohydrate diet upon endurance time, and that pre-existing glycogen levels exerted an influence in time to exhaustion. Subsequently, it was discovered that if an athlete, after depleting glycogen reserves, consumed a high carbohydrate diet for 2 to 3 days prior to an athletic event, there would in fact be higher glycogen levels than prior to exercise. This supercompensation effect became the basis of carbohydrate loading and overtaken by endurance athletes. So like when I was in high school, they used to tell the football players the night before to eat a great big plate of spaghetti. Kind of the same thing. So anyways, therefore, the concentration of muscle and liver glycogen prior to the exercise plays an important role in endurance exercise capacity. In exhaustive exercise, many studies have observed significant depletion of both liver and muscle glycogen. It is interesting to recognize that point of exhaustion seems to occur upon the depletion of the liver glycogen. This is what I found to be interesting, not necessarily the muscle glycogen, but the glycogen in the liver. Conversely, muscle glycogen reserves, though significantly lower, are only 65 to 85% depleted versus 85 to 95% depleted for the liver glycogen. This should make it readily apparent that liver glycogen is an integral determining factor of an athlete's time to exhaustion. See, that's just, I would have never even thought that in my whole wide life, like never thought about glycogen in the liver. because you're obviously you're using your muscles. So, anyways, all right. It follows that endurance athletes who maintain a daily regimen of endurance training without glycogen repletion may severely deplete their glycogen reserves. Glycogen, the major reservoir of carbohydrates in the body, is comprised of long-chain polymers of glucose molecules. The body stores molecules. The body stores approximately 450 to 550 grams of glycogen within the muscle and liver for use during exercise. At higher exercise intensity, glycogen becomes the main fuel utilized. Depletion of liver glycogen has the consequence of diminishing liver glucose output and blood glucose concentrations accordingly. Because glucose is the fundamental energy source of the nervous system, a substantial decline in blood glucose results in exhaustion due to glucose deficiency to the brain. It appears that the evidence presented in the literature universally supports the concept that the greater the depletion of skeletal muscle glycogen, then the stronger the stimulus to replenish the stores upon the concession of exercise provides adequate carbohydrate is supplied. Wow. That's a mouthful. So anyways, and I'll hit the link thing on this thing and you'll see it if you want to read this for yourself. And I'll probably even put a link in the description. Though most of the evidence presented on glycogen is related to prolonged aerobic exercise, there is evidence that exercise mode may play a role in glycogen replenishment, with eccentric exercise exhibiting significantly longer recovery periods, up to 4 days post-exercise. Muscle fiber type is another factor implicated in the replenishment of glycogen in athletes due to the enzymatic capacity of muscle fiber. The red fiber appearing to be subjected to the greater depletion, but also undergoing repletion at a significantly greater rate. There's some more stuff down here that was just like, holy crap. Give me just 1 second. Let me get through this, and I'll point it out when we get there. And talking about, and it talks about how often you should replenish and how to do it versus how to get more out of it versus, when you see like Rich take a big, huge jug of real food. That's okay, but it breaks down how to get more glycogen back into your body faster. So I'll get to that, which is the other reason why I wanted to share this with you, because so much stuff that's in this article is old, and it's like it's being reintroduced as new stuff, and it's not. It's been around forever. So, though early literature appeared to indicate that the time course of glycogen replenishment after exercise-induced depletion was 48 hours or more data have controverted this. One study reported that carbohydrate intake totaling up to 550 to 625 grams per day was found to restore muscle glycogen stores to pre-existing levels within 22 hours. And I got to be honest with you, if you're on steroids, it may be sooner than that. I know your body recovers faster, so that might be something that some of the bigger YouTube gurus might want to tackle. I don't know. So the stores replenish 22 hours between exercise sessions. The findings of this study were supported by a second study in which carbohydrate intake of 3,100 kcal resulted in complete resynthesis of glycogen within 24 hours. There also appears to be a 2-hour optimal window immediately after cessation of exercise for the administration of carbohydrates. So there's your 2-hour window. So right there, that probably most people talk about. And that's the best time for you to upload your carbs, according to this. Simple carbohydrates appear to be preferred replacement during this replenishment period. Normally, and this is what I was like, holy shit. So pay attention to this. Normally, 2% of glycogen is resynthesized per hour after the initial 2 hours, immediately after exercise. With the administration of 50 grams of carbohydrates every 2 hours, the rate rose to 5% per hour. So that's like 150%. Well, no, it's like 250% of the original rate, if I did the math right. But you get what I'm saying. It's a hell of a lot more. So the rate rose to 5% per hour, but did not rise when additional carbohydrates was administered. So 50 grams, you're not going to get any more if you try to bump it to 60 grams, is what it's saying there. The administration of 0.7 grams per kilogram body weight every 2 hours is another strategy that appears to maximize the rate of glycogen resynthesis. There is also some evidence that even smaller loads, 28 grams every 15 minutes, may induce even greater replenishment rates. So right there, what it's saying is basically, drinking a huge shake with 4 or 5 scoops of, like, let's just say real food, for instance. While that's not the worst case scenario, the best case scenario would be to, drink 2.5 scoops instead every 2 hours. So it's just something to think about. But if you don't have time to do that or whatever, obviously, getting in all your carbohydrates right after the workout, is what you got to do. So, anyways, therefore, at least 20 hours are required to recover muscle glycogen stores, even when the diet is optimal. So, athletes working out 2 times a day should complete 1 workout at the diminished workload to relieve the reliance of glycogen reserves. The principle of glycogen resynthesis and supercompensation has great practical implications, not only in athletes, but also industry for workers who constantly undergo the depletion of glycogen stores due to prolonged bouts of exertion or extended lifting tasks, which would be glycolytic, I guess, in nature, due to the duration, and also myofibrillar something, I don't know, ischemia. I'm not even going to pretend like I know it. It's one of those words I'm going to just like look like I know what I'm talking about and not. Induced by static contractions. So I thought that was pretty cool. What I initially had looked for was, how important was it to replenish your glycogen in a weight loss, trying to lose weight. And this thing right here, it wasn't really what I was looking for, but it answers my question about why it's so important, like to work out when you work out to replenish your glycogen, like if you're at a weight level that you are comfortable with, like, at your goal weight or whatever. Let me go ahead and click this up here, and it should give the whole, okay. So there's the whole link. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and copy and paste that in the description. But that's why Rich always replenishes his glycogen to restore his levels, like right after he works out. Now, I will say that it did say that it's more important to replenish your glycogen after cardio or strenuous long workouts, which I took to be cardio. Take a look at this, and I'm sure there's other articles for you to dig through, but this one really seemed to be an article that knew kind of what the hell they were talking about. It kind of opened my eyes to some stuff. So, anyways, well, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you later.